Hi guys! A couple of videos ago I posted a video called Vintage Lookbook where I featured some of my favourite vintage and second-hand items that I had bought over the past however long, and a lot of you commented and said you'd like a video on tips for vintage shopping, charity shopping, things like that. So here it is. This is going to be my top tips for vintage shopping, second-hand shopping, eBay, charity shops and boot fairs. I live in England, so we don't have thrift shops, so to speak. We have more like charity shops, which are a lot smaller. From what I've seen of thrift shops, they're massive, and I'm really jealous. I actually wish we had thrift shops in England, but we don't. We have charity shops, second-hand shops, and things like that. So it's slightly different, but the same rules will apply. So if you do live in America or somewhere that has thrift shops, you can sort of apply these same ideas. I'm sure this video is going to be a long one, so in this video I'm going to talk about charity shops, boot fairs, eBay, and how to care for your items and clean them. So what I'll do is I'll put the times in the description below, so you can just click that time and it will take you to a time in the video about where I start talking about that particular thing. So if you're only interested in charity shops, you can click the time and it will take you to when I start talking about charity shops. So tip number one, before you even go to a shop, ask your mum, your dad, your nana, your granddad, anyone in your family that's older than you, what they have in their wardrobe that they don't want anymore. Ask them if you can have a little root around and see if there's anything in there that takes your fancy. You never know, they might have something really cool in there which will be vintage, will be a really nice piece, and it will be free. You won't have to pay for it because you can just borrow it from your family. Now talking about actual shops, the first thing I'm going to start with is charity shops. And charity shops in England are looked on in sort of a negative light. A lot of people will think, I don't want to go into a charity shop because it makes me look like a stig, da 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 da. Stig? Do people even use that word anymore? I don't know, we'll go with stig. A lot of people will be ashamed to go into charity shops and don't really like being seen in there, but I personally don't care. I think, why not? There's nothing wrong with charity shops. You might find an interesting piece, the prices are lower, and you're giving to charity at the same time, so I don't see what's wrong with it at all. So with charity shops, my first tip would be either go on your own or go with your mum or a family member. And I say this because I've gone shopping with friends and it's been nice, but I think you sort of have that pressure to go around the shops quicker or only look in certain areas. But when you're on your own, you can really take as long as you like, take a look at pieces, try them on if you want to. You don't really have to stick to anyone else's schedule, and you don't have to feel like you're bothering the other person for dragging them into charity shops and making them wait around while you root through loads and loads of stuff. And why I say take your mum or a family member is because they will most likely remember styles that are older. They might be quite knowledgeable on things like that. I know personally my mum knows quite a lot about fashion. I don't really know why, because she didn't study it or anything like that. I think it's because she was quite into music, and when you're into music you sort of see the fashions and the music videos. But my mum knows quite a lot about the styles, which brands were good, which things were popular in what time, and if it reminds her of a band or an era or a film. So she can sort of tell me, oh, I like that piece, yeah, it reminds me of Duran Duran, or I like that piece, it reminds me of Clockwork Orange. So take someone that is kind of knowledgeable but wants to help you out, rather than going with someone who likes similar things to you, because there's never really going to be two of the same thing. So if you both like something, you either have to choose who has it, fight over it, or just leave it and then no one gets it, which kind of goes against the whole point in going in the first place. So yeah, tip one, either go on your own or go with a family member. My next tip is, when you are looking through the racks, look for prints and colours. Don't necessarily look at the size, the cut or the brand of an item, because if you like something you can always alter it. You can always take it in, you can always add a belt. I have an awful lot of clothes that are too big for me, like massively too big for me. But I just belt them in with a waist, or my mum's taken them up to make it shorter. Like I had a dress, which I have a blog post on, which I'll link below if you want to go look at it, which was really long, and it wasn't bad long, but it looked a lot cooler shorter. So look for the prints and the colours and the textures rather than the actual item itself, if that makes sense. Also, look in all the sections in the store. Maybe not the children's section because you probably won't be able to fit into it unless you're a tiddly person, but look in the men's section and the women's section. Look in the sale rails, look in the dresses section, look in the shoes section, look everywhere. Don't just stick to women's, because there are loads of things in the men's section, and I personally have loads of men's clothes from charity shops. A good example of this is if you look in the men's section in the jeans, you will pretty much always find Levi's, Lee jeans, Wranglers, or anything that's a really good brand you might find in the men's section. And if you find it in your size and you know what size you wear, for example, I will wear a 32 in a Levi jean even though my waist is actually 28 inches. It's because I've got a big bum, so I know I have to wear a 32. So if you know your size in Levi jeans or Lee jeans, then you'll know which ones you can pick out and you can cut them off and make them into shorts, and it's so much cheaper because there are places like Urban Outfitters which will do exactly the same, and they have a renewal section which is just old stuff that they have bought up and cut off, and then they'll charge £30–40 for it. So a pair of jeans which you could get for £4 to £7, maybe a bit more depending on the area you live in, you can chop them up and there you go, you've spent less than a tenner on a pair of high-waisted shorts which you could have spent £40 on from Urban Outfitters. My next tip sort of ties into what I've already said, and that is be open-minded. Look at the prints, look at the colours, look at the textures. Don't care about the sizes as long as it's not too small. If it's too big, don't worry about it. Just belt it, take it in, take it up, add darts, make it fit you. You can fix these things. Like there are jackets that have massive shoulder pads in, just chop the shoulder pads out if it looks ridiculous. Like I said with the jeans, cut them, make them into shorts. Get some shirts that you can make into sleeveless blouses that you can wear in the summer. There are so many things that you can do with these items, and if you look on my channel you will see loads and loads of DIYs because that's something I do a lot. I will find something and I will alter it. I will add studs, I will dye it, I will bleach it, I'll cut it up to make something different and to make something a bit more interesting than what it originally was. My last tip for charity shops is buy it. Don't talk yourself out of it. And this is mainly a tip that I sort of try to go by because I am one of those shoppers where I go into a shop and I find something I really like and I'll pick it up and I'll walk around with it for about 10 minutes and I'll think, I really like this, I really like this, but do I want to buy it? Do I really want to buy this? And then I'll put it back and then I'll go away, I won't have bought it and I'll regret it. And an example of this is I've got two crazy patterned shirts which are sheer, which I got from a charity shop, and I went in on one day, I bought one of them because they were two, they were matching. I don't really know why there were two in there, but there were. Someone must have donated both of them. And I went in and I bought one of them, and then I came home with it and I absolutely loved it. But I'd only bought the one shirt, and then so I said to my mum, I was like, oh, can you go into the charity shop that I went into and get the second one, because I wanted the second one as well. So that's an example of that. I usually talk myself out of these things, and I don't know if that's something you do, but charity shops are mostly cheap. They are getting more expensive, but it's nowhere near the amount that you would spend in Urban Outfitters or Topshop or River Island or New Look even. So just buy it. Take the chance, take it home, see what you can do to it, see if you can change it, and if you really, really hate it and you really don't like it and it really doesn't work, just sell it. Put it on eBay and get your money back. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is boot fairs, and I absolutely love boot fairs. I'm so excited because boot fair season is coming up again very, very fast because it's nearly spring and summer. So boot fairs are quite interesting and you can get some amazing deals. I got this jumper from a boot fair which I wear all the time. You've probably seen it in my videos because I wear it constantly. And I'm pretty sure this was about £2, if that. I got a camo jacket from a boot fair for £3, which is an authentic one. I've got countless things from boot fairs for no more than a £5. So with boot fairs, you sort of have to play on the way people behave and how they feel at that time of the day, and that sounds a bit strange, but what I mean is you've got a couple of choices here. You can go really, really early in the morning and you can go and ask the sellers what they've got and walk around before anyone else has nabbed anything yet, and you'll sort of have the first pick of stuff that's there. This is what a lot of vintage sellers will do. So you see these vintage shops on eBay or even shops that you might see on the high street that are a vintage shop. What they do is they go to boot fairs, they go to house sales, and they do exactly the same thing. They walk around, and this has even happened to me when I've been a seller. People come up and they say, oh, have you got any jackets? Have you got any jewellery? Have you got any Levi jeans? And they'll be after specific things and they'll ask you for them. So that's what they do. So you could go along that route and do exactly the same thing. The only bad thing about that is some sellers can get annoyed with you asking them for specific things because they know people do that. Also, the prices are going to be higher earlier on in the day because the sellers will have just got there and they'll be thinking, oh, I can see how much this can go for. And if it doesn't sell, then someone else will come along and buy it, or I'll just reduce the price throughout the day. The other thing you can do is you can go right at the very end. So if you go at the end, you won't have the first pick of everything there. but it means that sellers will give away things for literally nothing. They will just give away things for like 50p, a pound, and you can go up and you can say, oh, how much for this? And they'll say, oh, I don't care, a quid, that'll do, because I'm packing up my car and I want to go home and I want to get rid of these things. I don't really want to take them home with me. So people do want to get rid of things, and they will let things go for hardly anything. The next thing at boot fairs is haggle, and us Brits are terrible at haggling, and this is because we're a bit too polite and we don't really want to upset people, and you know, we'll just totter along and we'll say, oh, how much for that? £3? Oh, that's okay, I'll take that for £3. £3 isn't a lot, but English people are terrible at haggling. We just are, but go for it. Just say, if someone says, oh, I'll give you that jumper for a £5, you can say, what about £3? And they'll say, that's quite a big drop, how about we meet in the middle and you can probably get it for about £4. That's just an example, but do haggle, give it a go. If it doesn't work, then just buy it for their original price. It's not going to be a lot in the first place, but give a go at haggling and you can get stuff down. When I've been a seller, I've had people come up to me and haggle, and I've just said, oh, I don't care, whatever, I'm throwing this away pretty much anyway. I don't want to take stuff home, so just take it. And it's that kind of mentality with sellers, is they tend to want to just get rid of stuff and they don't want to take it home again, so they are usually willing to let things go for not a lot. Again, the same with the charity shops. Be open-minded and don't talk yourself out of buying it. It's not going to cost you a lot. If you don't like it, just sell it on, see what you can do with it, alter it if you like. You can't try things on at a boot fair, so go for sizes that either are your size or are a size bigger. Never go a size smaller unless you know that that specific size fits you. For example, if you knew a pair of Levi 501 jeans in a 30-30 fit you, then get them because you know that they'll fit you guaranteed. But if you don't know and you're not too sure on the sizes, always go up. The next thing I'm going to talk about is eBay, and I buy a lot of stuff from eBay and it's always secondhand. It's pretty much boot fairs just online, and eBay is brilliant. I absolutely love eBay. A lot of people will ask me where I got something and I'll say, oh, I got it from eBay, and they'll go, what? How do you find these things on eBay? I can never find anything on eBay and it's all just crap and I can never find anything. How do you do it? And I just say, well, I don't really know. I just guess I search stuff. And I don't find things all the time. I find brilliant pieces every now and then. So sometimes I'll come across something and I'll think, oh wow, I've never seen that before, I love that. Like I bought a jumpsuit recently and I was just searching through eBay and I found it. But I would say use keywords. It doesn't have to make sense when you type it into the search bar. You don't have to write, I want a orange jumpsuit with some pink polka dots and a small waistband in a size 10. You don't have to do that. Just write orange jumpsuit, vintage, go, and then just see what comes up. You don't have to write sizes all the time. You don't always have to write the colours. Just write a couple of keywords. A lot of the time I'll just write 80s vintage or granny cardigan or silly things like that, and you will find things because people do label them with keywords, and that's how you can find interesting pieces. My next tip for eBay would be ask the seller questions. Not only can you find out a lot about the item this way, but you can find out a lot about how the seller deals with their customers. So if it's an expensive item, for example, if you're buying a pair of secondhand Jeffrey Campbell shoes, for example, you probably want to know how the seller deals with you because that is an expensive item and it's a lot of money to give them. So you'll probably want to know a bit more about the seller. Also ask questions. Don't be worried to just contact the seller and say, oh, could you measure this for me? Could you put up another photo? Because if they want to sell something, they will do it. And you're the customer, you're going to be handing over your money, so don't be scared to just ask a question. My last tip for eBay is if you're looking for specific vintage items, so if you want something that is genuinely vintage rather than something that is vintage style, look out for the word vintage style, because if it says style, it's probably not vintage. Also, look out for damages and stains and holes. If there are stains and holes and damages on the item, it's most likely vintage, and you will find these things on vintage items because unless it's been sat in a cupboard for the past 30 years and it's not been touched and it's been looked after, like maybe they wash it every now and then it's probably not going to have stains or anything like that. But if it was a well-loved item and it is vintage and it is old, it probably will have signs of wear and tear. So that's how you can usually find out if they're vintage or not. Also, the more you do vintage shopping, the more you will notice the types of fabrics that were used and prints and colours, so you can usually spot things when you see them. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the care of your items. So this is kind of what do you do when you've got a second-hand item, and obviously it's second-hand so it's not new, so it will have been worn. What do you do to sort of clean it and things like that? People have asked me these questions. So What I would say is if it's clothes, wash it, put it in the washing machine. Wash it as soon as you get it, wash it before you wear it, because you don't know what the sanity of the person who had it was. They might have washed it before they sent it to you, but you don't know. It might have been sat in a cupboard for the past 10 years, someone might have worn it all the time, it might not have been washed, You just want to wash it because you don't know. With shoes and belts and things like that you can't put in the washing machine, what I tend to do is get an antiseptic wipe and just wipe it over. If you've bought a decent quality item, then you won't find mould in it, you won't find dirt and disgusting things in it, but you do want to give it a wipe down, make sure it's clean, especially if it's a shoe where you're not going to be wearing socks. If you can put them in the washing machine, put them in the washing machine. If you can't, like I said, just get some antiseptic wipes and give them a nice wipe over, and hopefully any nasties will have been killed from the antiseptic and you will be able to wear them, no problem. So that is it for my tips for vintage, secondhand and charity shopping and boot fairs. Let me know if you have any questions or any other tips, write them in the comments below and I will reply to you. I'll link all the videos and the blog posts that I've spoken about in this video in the description. Also, all of my social networks are linked in the description if you're interested. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and check out some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and well done if you've made it to the end, because I'm sure this was a very, very long video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!